All right, let's talk about one of the most mysterious and honestly controversial texts in religious history. We're going to dive into a book that tells a story so epic, it might just change the way you see the ancient world.
So here's a wild thought for you. What if a book that's directly quoted in the New Testament just isn't in most Bibles today? Early Christians read it, they treated it like scripture, but somehow it got left behind. We are talking, of course, about the book of Enoch.
You know, this is pretty much all the official Bible says about the man, Enoch. Super cryptic, right? He didn't die in the usual way. God just took him. This strange and sudden exit is what makes him so fascinating. It sets the stage for a man who supposedly saw heavenly secrets that nobody else could.
So for centuries, the Book of Enoch was pretty much lost to the Western world, gone. But then copies were found over in Ethiopia, and later, amazingly, fragments popped up with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this wasn't just some random text. It turns out this was like an ancient bestseller that had a huge influence on early Jewish and Christian beliefs.
Now here's where it gets really juicy. The story this book tells. It gives this incredibly dramatic answer to one of the oldest questions in theology. Where did evil actually come from? And according to Enoch, it didn't start with Adam and Eve. Nope. It started with angels.
The story kicks off with 200 of these divine beings. They're called the Watchers. Their leader, an angel named Simyaza, gets them all together on Mount Hermon, and they make a pact, a binding oath to go against God's plan and get directly involved with humanity.
And you can just imagine the absolute chaos that followed. These Watchers completely abandoned their sacred duties. They came down to Earth, they took human wives, and they started teaching humanity all these secrets they were never ever supposed to know. It just unleashed this wave of corruption across the entire world.
And we're not talking about helpful gifts here. No way. The angel Azazel, for instance, he taught humans how to make swords and shields. Others showed them sorcery, astrology, and even cosmetics, not as cool advancements, but as tools for war, for deception, and for turning away from God.
Well, you can imagine a cosmic rebellion of this scale could not go unanswered. The corruption on Earth got so bad, the violence was so out of control, that the cries of the world itself literally reached the heavens, and they were demanding justice.
And get this, from these forbidden relationships between angels and humans, a hybrid race of giants was born, the Nephilim. And these things were powerful, with an appetite that could never be satisfied. After they ate up all of humanity's food and resources, they turned on humans themselves, leading to all-out violence and even cannibalism.
So God's judgment was, well, systematic and incredibly severe. For the Watchers, their immortality was stripped away, and they were locked up in a dark abyss forever. As for their giant kids, they were cursed and turned against each other in a brutal civil war, right before the Great Flood wiped them out. But even in death, their spirits were bound to wander the earth, causing trouble for ages to come.
So, all of this brings us back to that huge question. If this story was so important, if it was even quoted in the New Testament book of Jude, why on earth was it left out of most Bibles?
The whole decision really comes down to a process called canonization. You see, over hundreds of years, religious leaders debated which ancient texts were actually divinely inspired and which ones should be included as official scripture. And the Book of Enoch, well, it faced a really tough debate.
And man, it was a real tug of war. On the one hand, a lot of early church leaders loved it. It's quoted in the New Testament. It clearly shaped a lot of early ideas about angels, demons, the Messiah. But on the other hand, people weren't sure who really wrote it and its theology. All this detailed visionary stuff about angels and their giant kids, some just thought it was way too strange, too out there. And in the end, for most Christian traditions, the reasons to exclude it won out.
But here's the thing. Just because it didn't make the final cut doesn't mean the book just disappeared. Not at all. It survived out on the fringes, and lately it's had a huge comeback. For some modern believers, its message is actually more relevant than ever. They see it as a key to unlocking the hidden history of our world.
From this point of view, the story of the Watchers wasn't just some one-time event in the distant past. No, they see it as the beginning of a cosmic culture war, a massive disinformation campaign by fallen beings to make humanity completely forget its true divine purpose.
And this is where modern interpretations get really wild. People connect Enoch's ancient story to all kinds of modern mysteries. The giants, maybe they built Atlantis. The forbidden knowledge, some say that's proof of ancient genetic engineering, or maybe even UFO technology. And it's all seen as part of that grand spiritual struggle for the soul of humanity itself.
So at the end of the day, here's the bottom line.
Whether you read it as literal history, as a cautionary tale, or as some kind of prophetic code, there is no denying that the Book of Enoch has left a deep, lasting mark on our culture.
And no matter how you look at it, the story always comes back to Enoch himself. This one righteous guy, chosen to be a messenger, a scribe who got to travel through the heavens and came back with a warning for all of humankind.
And that really is the ultimate question I want to leave you with. Is this incredible book just a powerful myth, a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and forbidden knowledge? Or is it a lost chapter of our history